Welcome back, guys. We are facing the biggest question today. Should we wait or should we buy? Today, we're going to talk to you about the crazy disruptions that are going on that are affecting buyers, sellers, and the real estate industry as a whole. And we'll talk about the pre approval process and some creative alternatives to these rising interest rates. So stay tuned.
This is Real Generational Wealth. Live from Southern California, this is Abby, Espy, and Jen.
Welcome back.
Happy birthday.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good. How's everything in the real estate market?
Everything is good. Wanted to quickly welcome back all of our viewers. I know we have been on hiatus for a little bit over 2 months. Thank you all for being so patient and tuning in. So if you are watching live, be sure to hashtag live in the comments below. If you're catching this on the replay, go ahead and hashtag replay. So crazy market we're in. It's not even summer. It's not even summer. I know everybody always thinks summer's the hottest time to buy or sell, but we're just about in spring, and it is nuts for both buyers and sellers.
Mm-hmm. I think everyone is having FOMO, or like fear of missing out, right? Like that they're gonna get priced out of the market. So they're kind of in a rush to get into a home before the interest rates go up even more.
I mean, that's the thing, right? As soon as we
the rates are already going up.
Yeah. Last year, I mean, all of the last 2 years, right? We had been at record lows interest rates.
2%. What happened to the 2% interest rates?
Yeah, 2s, 3s, and all of us.
Now we're in the 4s.
We're in the 4s, right? So all of you watching, if you have not bought yet, yes, interest rates are in the 4s already.
Yeah.
It seemed like this year everything skyrocketed. It's interest rates. One of my lenders I work with, he always says interest rates go up fast, but they take a while to go low. So when are we going to see low interest rates again? Who knows?
That's true, but it's still a good time to buy.
Yes.
I mean, even though
a lot of people are waiting. They're thinking that the market is going to drop, and they're waiting for the foreclosures, for the bargains. So I think that's something that, right now the prediction is that it's going to be stable. I can see more homes that are longer in the market, but the demand is still there, still very high.
So. That's true. And nowadays, a lot of the homeowners have more equity than back during the recession. So you won't see as many foreclosures as you did before. But I think a lot of the people that are waiting until the market crashes. I don't know how long you'll be waiting, because, like now, where if you qualified for $600,000 last year based on a 2% interest rate, now you might not even qualify for that. Probably like 500,000 or and the home prices are just they're going up. There's a lot of demand and not enough inventory. So that's what they were saying. So I was reading that, typically when interest rates go up 1%, then the home price will go down 10%. But that's not happening because we have an issue with demand. There's so much demand for homes in Southern California. Yeah, there's a shortage of homes.
It's simple economics, right? We are there's this huge imbalance, right? We have so much demand and not enough supply. And I feel that's one of the biggest disruptions, right? Like there's so many things, like you have 100 people to one house, basically.
In the valley.
I mean, but
despite the fact that there's a lot of people moving out from California.
Yes.
Yeah. You know why? Because the millennials are getting older. They're starting to have families.
A lot of millennials are anti-renting too, because I had some clients that are 25. They're 25 and 27, and before they moved anywhere, they wanted to buy a place first instead of renting. So she's
Smart.
an accountant and she's really good with their money. So she's like, no, I'm gonna invest my money instead of making my landlord rich. I want to be the one that's rich and have this property as an investment property in the future.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are smarter with their money. They don't want to rent. Like rent is usually around 2,500 to 3,000 per month, and that means you're paying your landlord $36,000 a year, where you can be paying yourself, and you know you can have the appreciation of the home, and
Mhm.
and you don't have to answer to anyone,
And
just
even
yourself.
even in today's market, right? Homes are appreciating so fast. I just closed on a condo that I sold last year, February.
Hmm.
It was her first home. She bought a condo, 2 bedroom, two bath house, or condo, sorry, here in the valley. We got it for 355, or I think it was 360.
Oh wow,
360
that's
last
really good.
year,
That
February.
was February. Yeah.
February last year. We just sold it because she thought she'd be there for a couple years, and I don't know, she messaged me a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago and said, "Well, I think I want a house." So we ended up moving her into, well, we're about to close on her purchase. But we sold her condo for 425.
Wow,
That's what, 65K in equity in a year. Basically less than a year. It was like 11 months, and so that's the
that's
reason why a lot of people,
amazing.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like renting is throwing away money. That 36K that you could be putting into your own unit, you could make 65K in that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think some
crazy.
people are like, oh, I don't want to pay 3,000 a year. I'm just paying 2,300 right now. But there's other costs, other implicit costs in that. Like you're not owning your home, you're not paying down any equity, and when the home prices go up, you're not taking advantage of that. I do have clients too that we close on them in October of 2020, and they got their home for 520, and they refinanced and removed the PMI already, like in October. So now their home is worth 800,000 from 520.
Wow.
She was on the show. She was on our show as one of my
Oh.
guests.
Oh.
It's that home in El Monte. They have
I
two
think I remember they
parcels,
they
and
walked us around the backyard and everything.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Mm.
her. And she she they put in a gate, they fixed up the inside, and they updated everything. So now the home is worth over 800,000. So
Well,
that's something to
Abby,
think about. Mhm.
that guy that you that client that you referred to me,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
that's right.
yeah. Well, we closed today. You know
Oh,
how much he
congrats.
made?
Oh, congratulations. The one
Yeah.
in Fontana, right?
Right. So he bought the house and we got in contract February of last year, and then he moved in finally with all the changes on the time move in time. He moved
Hmm.
in September, and then he realized that the two-story home is not going to be suitable for him, you know.
Okay.
And so he said, "I want to move to a one-story home." So we just closed and recorded today. You know how much he made? He
How
made
much?
a little over $1,000.
Wait, a
Amazing.
thousand?
I know, 100,000.
100,000. Wow, that's
Sorry,
amazing.
100,000. He
That's
bought it for 553, and we sold it for 625. So he
That's
barely
amazing.
put, yeah. So he bought this house for 660, a brand new house, and he didn't have to put anything of his money. He just
Amazing.
transferred the money that he made here to over there, and then it was a 20% down instead of the initial. I think he only put 10% on the first.
well, I'm jealous. How come I referred him to you?
Yeah,
Dang.
and the
How
thing
many
is that
transactions is that? That's like three
there you go.
transactions.
Yeah, and the
But I'm
thing
glad.
is, it
Yeah.
was very hard because his FICO got messed up during that transaction. You know, the first home that he bought
Yeah.
because he's working long hours, and his FICO went down to like 611. And then I got
Oh.
him connected. I was telling Jan, I got him connected to a credit repair lady, and in
Uh-huh.
less than a month, his FICO went to 700.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
You
Like
know,
if you just pay down some balances, then your FICO score can go up 200 points.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah,
good you did that
yeah.
for him.
Yeah. but then the builder didn't want to do any changes on the loan during the time that we were in escrow. So that's okay though. He can just refinance it and remove that the PMI. You
We
know.
have we have so I have an agent, Reggie. He has a client that was in escrow and he canceled because he was like, "Oh, I'm not sure I want to buy it. I'm renting and I'm only paying 1,700 for rent, but when I buy, I'm gonna be paying like 2,500." So that place that he was living in or that he was in escrow in Orange County, it would have gone up 75,000 already if
Wow.
he
Mm.
had he
It-
stayed in the home.
oh
So
wow,
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, it's such an opportunity that's lost. I mean, sometimes I think people have to look at the big picture and see it's not just about what I'm paying right now for rent, but you know the big picture, like I'm
Yeah.
owning a home, I'm building my equity, the home value is going up. So that's something that I think a lot of renters, they don't realize. They're just looking at, okay, I'm paying 2,000 for rent versus paying 2,700 a month on my mortgage.
Yeah.
Mm,
I
mm.
think well, yes. So because that's very like small vision thinking, right?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at the
Mm.
bigger picture. I think what a lot of people, I guess what they get scared about is, well, okay, if I'm going to think big picture, then what happens when the market crashes? Going back to your question, what you said earlier, like you have people who are waiting, there are people who are thinking the prices are going to fall at some point. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack to 2008 when the market crashed, or let's say 2005, 2006, and I can talk about it because I know my parents bought in 2005,
Oh,
2006.
mine too.
You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of people who bought at the height of the market, right? When homes were
Mhm.
crazy expensive and people just thought, okay, the market's never going to crash. I'll be fine. And then boom, 2008, everybody lost half their property value. Yes, a lot of people lost homes. However, if you happen to be one of those people who bought in at the height
And
and
hang
your
on to
market
it.
value dropped, if you've kept your home since then, your
Mhm.
home is worth way more now than it was
Oh
in
yeah.
05, 06, 07. You know,
Mhm.
that's the thing about real estate, right? It's an investment, as with any investments, right? They
It's
always
over
fail.
time.
Yeah, they always go up and down. And
Mhm.
but with real estate, even though it's like this up and down motion, I think it's an upward trend,
Upward
right?
trajectory.
Yeah, it goes
Mhm.
up and down, but in an upward trend.
Yeah.
You if you hold real estate long enough, you will always make money. It always appreciates, you know. And so
Mhm.
I personally, I mean, to go back just to that original question we asked was, should you wait? Should you buy now? I mean, my personal answer is now is always the right time. Now is always the right time to
Yeah.
buy.
Whatever it is, there's always a good reason for you to buy it at any
Yeah,
market.
yeah,
You know, especially if it's an owner-occupied property. Because owner-occupied property, compared to other countries, the good thing about here in the United States is that, you can deduct the mortgage interest here.
yeah,
In some countries, you can't.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah, that's
there's a
true.
lot
And
of advantage of owning a home here, and it's a lot easier to own a home here. There are some countries you can't even own a home if you're an immigrant.
yeah,
You
that's
know.
true, especially for high earners too. If you're making 150 to 200,000 a year, you need a tax shelter
Mm-hmm.
because you're probably paying taxes at the end of the year, or you not at the end of the year, but when you file your taxes, you're probably
Yeah.
paying. So you defer it until July, so you don't have to
Mhm.
pay until July, and then you extend it until October. But if you owned a home, you can write off the interest expense. You can write off the property taxes, and it really just helps mitigate your tax liability. I mean, for us, if we didn't own our not just our principal residence but our investment property, oh my, we would be paying so much in taxes. I'm just happy to break even at the end of the year because like when we saw, you have to hire a good CPA too. So make
Mhm.
sure you hire a CPA to do your taxes if you're going to itemize your deductions. Anyone can do standard deductions, but in order to take advantage of your tax shelter or the tax advantages of owning a home, you have to itemize.
yeah,
So just make sure you have a CPA and not really like a tax preparer person.
yeah,
But yeah.
Right. So those people who are made a lot of money on their property, just like the one I was telling you about, that sample, Usually the escrow officer is going to remove 3%, 3.33% of the sales price of the top of whatever he sold the property to. And what happened is that I connected him to a CPA tax guy, tax
Mhm.
person,
Oh, because he
and
sold within 2 years, right? So
he
he's subject
sold
to
less than
capital
one
gains.
year. So it's
Oh,
like,
that's
are
a
you owner
short-term gain.
occupied or
Yeah.
not, or
Yeah.
investor or not? So I was able to do that, to get more money for him, was there is a form called 593, IRS 593. And I asked him to go to that CPA, not to do it himself, but to go to that
Yeah.
CPA and the tax preparer, you know, and the 20,000 that the escrow took out from her from the estimated closing cost,
Hmm.
we only had to do 6,800.
That's
Nice.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing because I said, we need all the money from the sale of the house to the other house.
Yeah.
So we found different ways of, getting all the money that he could. And one of them is that form 593 that the escrow is going to give you if you ask for it, you know. Otherwise, because at first the escrow officer was saying to me, oh, well, that is the rule now. You have to remove 3% of the capital
Yeah,
gains,
that's what they always
Yeah.
do.
They all
you
say
know.
that.
Yeah. But then when I kind of like contested it, he said, well, there is this form that you can fill out. So when I saw it, it would show the different expenses, the cost, how much is your cost basis and all that. So I said, go to a CPA tax preparer, and I referred him to one of the members of the chamber. So he was very happy with that because that was a lot of money that went back
That
to
he was
him.
able to keep. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
So
That's it.
different
You did a
ways.
great job, SB, because a
Thank
lot of
you.
agents probably wouldn't know about that form.
Yeah, yeah. So, that's a good thing about being in the chamber is that you get to meet people and you mingle and interact with them and find out what they do, and you learn a lot. You learn something from them, and you can also disseminate it or share it to other people. Just like what I'm sharing it to you now.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, but
Yeah.
that's why ultimately who you work with matters, right? You
Yes.
want to have a team of professionals that know what they're doing, that have had a lot of experience, like firsthand experience in so many different types of transactions, right? Because everyone's different. Everyone's transaction is going to be
Mhm.
different. And so you want to make
Yeah.
sure that you definitely have the support and the team as a buyer or as a seller. You have the agent who's going to fight for you and figure out these loopholes
Yeah.
to basically get you the most at the end of the day.
And spend the time to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Put
that's
that
true.
energy to do it. You know.
So let's talk about the pre-approval process. I think
Yes.
Yeah.
some people are probably waiting to find
Mhm.
out. So who wants to, I mean, maybe we all have different methods of getting
Different
our clients
versions. Yeah.
pre-approved. Do you want to go first, Jen?
Well, I mean, I guess I just want to touch up first on the importance of the pre-approval. I know there's some people here who might question, oh, well, or they'll say, I make enough money. Getting pre-approved is not going to be a problem. Don't worry. I just want to see these houses. Well, unfortunately, in today's market, you need a pre-approval to start looking at homes. It's no one wants to waste their time, if they don't know, whether you are actually pre-approved for a home. Homes are flying off the shelves just as fast as they have been these past few years, right? Yeah, a house
That's
will
true.
hit the market on Thursday or Friday and it's gone by Monday or Tuesday. And in order to submit an offer, you need to have a complete pre-approval letter. And a pre-approval is you've already talked to a lender, you've had them run your credit, you've given them your bank statements and tax returns, you've shown your proof of employment. There's usually a laundry list of documents you need to collect for them, but it's making sure that you have all of your financials and have already talked to a lender to make sure you can qualify for a loan. And and honestly, that's going to be your biggest set of like ammunition to make sure that you can get a home. You know, you want to be able to put yourself in the strongest position to be able to put like the strongest offer.
There,
But
I've had some people that are like, money is no object, like, and
Oh
then
wow.
when it,
Oh, you're
like
lucky.
we're kind of like, Am I lucky though? Because when that person finally tried to get pre-approved, it's like, oh, you already have real estate under your name, so this would be an investment property. Oh, they don't have enough money to put down on an investment property because the interest rate is, or not the interest rate is higher
Yeah.
by like at least 1%, and you need a bigger down payment.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to get pre-approved before looking for a home,
Yeah.
because it's counterintuitive to look for homes first and you don't know what you qualify for. You could qualify for 500 or you can qualify for a million,
Yeah.
who knows. But it right now homes are going so fast, within like 3 days, and usually it takes that long to get a pre-approval, so it would be good to get a pre-approval prior to viewing properties.
I mean, as
And
a buyer, the last thing you want is to look at, like you were saying, like $500,000 homes, and all of a sudden you realize or you find out you can afford 800. A
Mhm.
$500,000 home versus an $800,000 home. Those are two completely different properties, especially here in the Valley or in LA. That's like a condo versus a house, and or vice versa. You don't want to look for a bigger property and can only afford for something smaller, and so that's why
Yeah.
it's really important to do that first.
I
And
think
it's also
some.
it's really good to to look at the strategy. It's like playing football without a coach who's going to tell you what is the strategy for the game.
Yeah.
You know, and just start the game without thinking about how you're going to do it. And deal with the obstacles while you're in escrow, which is the worst thing that you can do.
Yeah.
That's true. Even me, I like to get underwritten approvals. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Full
Hmm.
DU
my
approval. Yeah.
loan officer, he was saying, "Oh, you're so aggressive, but how am I supposed to get offers accepted if I'm not aggressive?" I mean, it's very competitive. Like I have an escrow we just opened yesterday with a VA buyer. So when you submit an offer with VA, the VA conditions, you have to have termite clearance,
Yeah.
and
The
you
more
can't
strict.
do as is because you need that termite clearance. And then
Mhm.
there's other lender required repairs, so a lot of times the seller is like, oh, I don't want to accept this offer over conventional. But having an underwritten approval really helps strengthen the offer. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are kind of like, oh,
Staying away from it.
yeah, they're waiting, or they don't have confidence that they can get an offer accepted, or they might have been working with an agent that hasn't been able to get their offer accepted. I get a lot of those kind of buyers. um, but if you have the right agent and someone that's aggressive, aggressive, not pushy, then you can still get your offer accepted and become a homeowner.
Resourceful. I would say resourceful.
I mean,
I'm
another
like
thing
quiet aggressive.
You are
you
Abby.
Sweet
mentioned,
aggressive,
Abby,
like that.
you just mentioned, right? You have people who have been working with other agents and can't get their offer accepted, right?
Right.
Hmm.
There's in another episode we could talk about ways that you can make sure that your offer does get accepted. However, just to touch up on that, there's, you have contingencies as a buyer, right? When you're fully underwritten, you have a full DU approval, and we know that your loan is good to go.
What's a DU? So I think people, they're like, what's a DU?
Desktop underwriting. That's for
Yeah.
conventional loans.
I mean, like going back to how if you've already given the lender all of your documents, they've ran your credit, they've looked at all your tax returns, all your bank statements, and they have your full financials, and they verified your employment. A lot of lenders now are actually allowing their buyers to remove that loan appraisal or loan contingency up front.
Yes.
And so that's one thing that's why it's so important to talk to the lender beforehand, because if you're going up against, as a buyer, if you're going up against another offer that has no loan contingency and you still need 15 days to get approval, you're not going to win the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just to piggyback off what you're talking about with contingencies. So I have a home in escrow. It's over $1 million in the Bay Area. Like I didn't want to do this deal in the beginning, but it's my husband's cousin, and I referred her to someone. It didn't work out with them, so
Oh,
we
the one in Richmond.
the one in Richmond. It's Richmond Annex.
Hmm.
It's like borderline El Cerrito. It's all El
Hmm.
Cerrito schools. El Cerrito is so hot right now, so they have homes 700 square feet. Okay, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 1.45
My
million.
gosh.
And Nobody does contingencies there. So
Mm-hmm.
we had to submit an offer. We had to submit an offer, no contingency. Because
Mm-hmm.
everyone there has cash, they have tech money, so
Yeah.
I was nervous about that. But like you said, if you have a good lender that provides you with an underwritten approval and gives you the green light to remove the loan contingency, then it's just an appraisal contingency that you would probably be concerned about. So it luckily the home appraised because we have no no contingencies, and we're doing yeah, so we're doing no contingencies. And yeah, like I was kind of nervous to do that. But the lender, I had her double app. I never
Right.
usually do that. We did a double application with two different lenders just in case one lender's appraisal came in low.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when someone is W-2 and they've been working in the same job for 10 years, that's a pretty clean file and they have good credit. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
you can remove the loan contingency. But if someone's 1099, they kind of change jobs all the time, no. Like, no, you can't waive the
Yeah,
loan contingency.
that's gonna be tough. So, ladies, what are you going to do now with all these interest rates going up and there's still multiple offers? Um, what are you doing now as an alternative?
Still gonna chug along and keep submitting offers. But
Yeah,
there are ways to get around paying a
yeah,
high interest rate right now. Because for
right.
people, what I always recommend to buyers that are putting less than 20% down, I recommend them to do an arm, because most likely you're going to have to remove the mortgage insurance. You have to pay mortgage insurance if you're putting less than
Less than
20%
20.
down.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get rid of the mortgage insurance, a lot of times you have to refinance out of that
Right.
to remove it. So I always tell them, you're going to have to refinance in 5 to 7 years anyways. So why not do an arm, like a 7-year arm, 10-year arm?
Mm-hmm.
So an arm is
So,
basically
what is an
something that's
arm,
fixed.
Abby?
Oh, okay. So an arm is an adjustable rate mortgage. It has a negative connotation because of what happened back in the recession, or right before the
Right before the
recession,
crash. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
before the crash, because a lot of people were doing adjustable rate mortgages and they had a balloon payment. But I think nowadays to qualify for an adjustable rate mortgage, you need like a 740 FICO score, you need reserves. So the guidelines are more stringent. And the way it works is if you do a 7-year fix, 10-year fix, it's fixed for 7 years, then it goes up, based on the prime rate. So it'll go up after 7 years, but before that time, you can either sell your house or refinance to remove the mortgage insurance
Yeah.
once you build more equity. So that's a
Well,
way to get around the high interest rates right now. So you're not
yeah.
paying like 5%. So right
Well,
now,
I'll share
ARMs.
you something that I did years ago. Years ago in the 90s. I was telling Jen that I was doing loans at that time too, right? So I have a cousin of mine who was a first-time home buyer, and she started working, right? And so her income is not so high. So we ended up looking for a house. I was looking in Fremont all over. And finally, because I always go to meetings and I get to know all these realtors. So I saw one listing and it was an old house in a not so good neighborhood. It's Irvington. Um, but the house actually was rebuilt, completely rebuilt. A
Ooh.
4 bedroom, 2 bath house, completely rebuilt. And I walked in and said, "Oh, this is a good one." So I told my cousin that, hey, this is something that we can buy. But still, it was high for her.
Hmm.
So what I did was I talked to the listing agent first, and the market was high too at that time. Was hot. So I talked to the listing agent, and I found out that the seller was selling the house um, because her daughter that just got married decided that she doesn't want that house and she's moving somewhere else. And
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile, the owner was a contractor. He did all the fixing and he lives up in the hills, you know.
Okay.
So what we did was we did a 10% down, but with a seller carry.
Oh, owner
So no
owner
PMI.
financing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no PMI. As long as the seller agrees to subordinate, then you can go with 10%, and then a second of a 10%. And then I negotiated that, for him to be paid after 2 years. So she could
Wow,
refinance later, right?
that's
Yeah.
very creative.
Yeah. Yeah. So why will the seller agree to that? The seller likes it because he doesn't have to pay a lot of money on the 10% gain, you know,
Yeah.
capital gains on it,
Oh, okay.
because he only gets it after 2 years. So
Yeah.
maybe after 2 years, his income bracket is different. See, those are little things that can be used as a creative financing now, or a strategy, because remember, the sellers right now are going to be paying a lot of capital gains,
Yeah.
right? So
Oh,
if you
that's
can
true.
get them to do a seller carryback on a certain amount, then whatever you don't get in your hand, you don't pay tax, you know. So now you know how much that house is, from 175. Now it's close to a million.
Wow.
No, 2 million, because you know where it is.
Fremont?
Yeah, it's right very close to Tesla.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
we love Teslas.
Yeah, and the neighborhood was worst of the worst before. Now
Mhm.
it's like one of the school is like A plus.
Wow.
Yeah. So you never know what you get, what you can get from your house. And sometimes you buy in the worst neighborhood and it turns around and becomes a really good one.
Yeah.
Changes over time. That's a good thing about owning real estate.
Yeah, you have more flexibility.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just because you're sitting there and staying there, the appreciation is high. Yeah.
But you have a house, but you're living in something that you own your own, right? So,
Yeah. And you're
yeah.
deducting the taxes, and you're deducting the mortgage interest.
And also for a lot of people, it's achieving the American dream, especially a
Right.
lot of the immigrants that are coming over, that's their whole objective is to own a home and
Mm-hmm.
just live the American dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, answer the big question, should you buy now or should you wait?
So for me, I say it depends. If you're living at home with your parents and you're not paying rent, then maybe you can wait. Or if you're paying like a thousand
Enjoy it.
dollars, maybe you can wait and save up for a bigger down payment. But for the most part, if you're renting and paying over $2,000, yes, definitely you should buy. That 2,000 is going into thin air, making your landlord richer rather than you. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
just think about that.
So there's different strategies. It's always good to open the book and explore, rather than you thinking about it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up our episode for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
All
Have a good
right.
night.
Thank you. Good night.